Hello and welcome to lecture 6 of Sociology and Economics. As we discussed that from now onwards, and I hope to finish it in 2 lectures, but maybe it can go to up to 3 lectures. What on which we will be talking about is migration. So migration is basically a topic which it is very closely related to the issue of industrialization as well as urbanization. But as we have discussed in the class, that it has this concept is more than only something which is associated with urbanization or industrialization. So this is something which we will discuss. So in this part of the lecture, I do not know again, because we will keep the lectures shorter as per your suggestion. So I will keep the lectures of 20 to 22 minutes duration, so something like that. So I do not know exactly how much we will take or how much time we will take to cover the topics. So at least 2 lectures will be there, and maybe there will be 3 lectures. So that is something which we have or I have planned for you guys. So first thing first, let us try to understand migration. So it's not a very difficult concept for us to understand. Migration is basically the movement of individuals or group from one place to another place. So whenever there is a movement from say place A to place B, we call it a migration. And this movement this movement is not like a movement for very short duration, but for a longer duration. So a longer duration may be understood as something like more than a year or more than a couple of years or so, because usually people migrate for not less than a couple of years. It can be even more, but if you say that a person goes every year to a place for say 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, it may not be considered as migration. So this is one thing, that if you are moving from one place to another place, this is understood as migration. And mostly it is associated with economic or financial activity, that why a person will move from one place to another place in search of job, in search of employment opportunities, in search of financial stability. So given that understanding, we usually understand that migrations are basically concepts which are associated with economic activity. However, this concept or this notion needs to be reanalyzed, and I will say that it is not exactly economics. There are many sociologists or many philosophers of say polity, or many political philosophers, many political scientists, who will say that every migration is basically political. But right now we say that migration is economic, right? So what is it? Now there can be number of ways of classifying migration, right? But we will keep it simpler and try to understand it from three I will say broad perspectives. So the first kind of migration, if I can write migration here, so we are right now talking about types of migration. So if you see the first classification, that how you can divide or classify migration, so the first one definitely is political. Now what do we mean by political migration? This is something which we need to understand. Now, usually this word politics in itself is a misunderstood notion, or it's a less understood notion. Uh, People call politics precisely because they understand politics as bad politics. But usually, or in a very, I will say, um, if you see the meaning of polity, or say political activities, it is usually associated with governance. So any kind of activity which is related to providing governance to people, or engaging in any kind of political activity, whether to say choose governance or to be the part of the governance, it will be a political activity. Now, how migration is associated with politics, or why we call the first type of migration as political. Now, this political migration can be divided into at least three types. Okay. Uh, why I am calling it political? Because it is based on law and governance of a country or of a place. You must have heard about this word called asylum seeker. Asylum seeker are one category. The second category is that of a refugee, and the third category is that of an internally displaced person. So, let us understand what is an asylum seeker. Now, suppose this is country A, fine, and there is a section of people who are facing persecution because of their race, because of their ethnicity, because of their religion, because of their belief, their ideas, their principles, their social orientation, their sexual orientation, and so on. So they are a small community of people. Usually it is always a small community of people. Say the community's name is B. Okay. And these people feel that they are not safe in this country and they need to migrate from this place, cross the border, and go to another country. Okay. Now there is another country, say C, which accepts them. So this asylum seeker and refugees are basically status. What will happen is B, the community B, is actually moving from, say, country A to another country B or C, and they first seek refuge. And when they are legally trying to get asylum in a country, so they are given this status of asylum seeker. That means they are right now under review that whether they should be given the status of refugee. Once they are given the status that okay, you can legally enter our country and stay at some designated place, though they do not have all the rights of a citizen. So these people get the status of refugee. Okay, so these people are also migrants. Like a lot of people from one country go and seek asylum in another country, and after some point of the time, they are also given the status of refugee. It is different from the understanding of, say, getting the citizenship of a country or getting the naturalized citizenship of a country, because for that, you need to go, then you need to work, you need to stay for some years and this and that, and after that you seek the citizenship of a country. So in a way, people also seek citizenship in some other countries, and a lot of countries invite people from other countries that you can come over and work and get the citizenship of this country and that country. So migration take place, and this is a political migration because it is associated with law and governance. Now, this is the understanding of asylum seeker and refugee. But then there is people like internally displaced. Now, what is internally displaced? If this community has to move from this place in country A to another place, say here. Okay, so this understanding, when you move from one country to another country, one nation to another nation, so you take asylum seekers status, then you get the refugee status. But if you move from one place to another place, again, usually due to the problem of persecution, and you need to flee from one place to another place, so that understanding will be the understanding of an internally displaced person, and usually it is related to a community, and it is also understood as a migration. So the first type of migration, as I was talking about, is that of political, or it's the type of migration is political migration, right? Now, this is usually something which we don't discuss or which we don't find in a sociological concept or context, because they think that it is a very political concept. But socio-political and economical, all these things are so intertwined with each other that there is a need to study them together. So I thought that the first type which we will discuss will that be of a political migration. Now let us come to the second type of migration. What is the second type of migration? In fact, this is the type of migration which we discuss the most, right? The second type of migration which we are very well versed with is economic migration. Now, what is economic migration? Now, economic migration can take place because of a lot of things. Usually, economic migration is understood as like low-waged people who move from one place to another place, and what the terminology which we use as migrant workers. So, the understanding of economic will be that these people are migrant workers. They are doing some petty jobs in some place, and therefore they move from rural areas to urban areas, right? So this is the understanding of a migrant worker, and this is understood also as a economic migration, right? But that is not all. In fact, definitely they are a majority. They are the, if you see migration which is taking place because of economic reasons, so they form the core, or they form the chunk of the people, right? But this is not all. There is another category of people who also migrate from one place to another place, and let us call them as professionals. Why I am calling them as professionals? Because they are well versed with their own work, right? Doctors, engineers, plumbers, security persons, so many kind of technical jobs, right? People move from one place to another place. Nurses, right? So they go from one place to another place. Teachers, in fact, researchers also move from one place to another place in search of better economic opportunities, and they go from one country to another country. They also go from one place to another place. In both ways they are migrating, right? Because they are leaving their place of origin and they are going to some other place, and they stay also for longer durations, right? It will be more than a year, it will be more than a couple of years, it sometimes 5 years, sometimes 10 years, sometimes they never return, and so on. The same goes for migrant workers as well, that people have gone from their rural understanding or from their villages, and they have not returned in their lifetime, or they return after say superannuation. So all these things happen. So professionals also move from one place to another place, and then there are hubs, right? So in our country, like you know that Bangalore or Hyderabad, these places are hubs. These people are hubs for technocrats. People move to those places, right? So such kind of things, or a lot of people go for some kind of technical jobs to the Gulf area in our country, in our world, say Saudi Arabia, UAE, and so on. Many people go to US for some kind of technical jobs, to Canada, to Australia, and so on. So all these things are understood as that professionals are going. They are different from migrant workers. The third type of economic migration, which we should also understand, is that of students. And why we are connecting students a as an economic migration, or from the, we are seeing it from the perspective of economic say terminology, is precisely because students also move from one place to another place because they want better profile, so that they can help their financial, that can help their financial stability, right? Or they can be better from the economic point of view. So it is not an irony, or it is an irony, but it is not something which is a secret these days, that people pursue higher education, or people even pursue education not for the love of education, not for the love of learning, rather than for better economic opportunities, right? So education is not something which we are pursuing precisely because we want to be educated. Education may be the secondary thing, and if it is the secondary thing, I will be more than happy to hear this. Sometimes it becomes tertiary or even quaternary. The primary objective of pursuing higher education or better education is to get also better financial stability in our lives. So this movement of students from one place to another place precisely because of say gaining some kind of skills from the academic point of view is also understood from the economic say the perspective is economic here, right? It is not political, right? There can be other types of migrations as well. Why I'm saying that there can be other types of migrations as well? Because there are other kinds of people also who move from one place to another place for economic stability. Like I will give you an example. There are a lot of nomads or a lot of people who do not stay at one place, right? In fact, it may not be, they may not be called as homeless people, but rather they do not have a permanent residence, right? So they move from one place to another place because they do some kind of jobs or some kind of things. And usually in India, you will find a lot of tribes or a lot of nomad category people who will move from one place to another place continuously in search of some kind of economic stability. They do some kind of iron, they are ironsmiths, they are also doing certain kind of other jobs. Some people, like I remember, there are a lot of people who move from one place to another place for the whole of the year because they are carpet weavers, and they make carpets at one place and then they keep on selling to that place, and after some point of the time they will move from one place to another place. Some people are these furniture guys, so these carpenters, so they also move from one place to another place because they are not of that understanding. And it's not because that because these migrant workers are usually understood as those people who are working for constructions or who are going for certain kind of menial jobs. However, the people I am talking about are skilled craftsperson, and they know their skill well, just that they do not have their own shops, they do not have their own showrooms, they cannot afford to do that. So, and they are workers, they are very I will say very proficient workers in their own field, craftsmen in their own field. So they move from one place to another place in a country for some kind of economic activity. So those kind of people will also come under. So I can put it as a crafts. I will call it person rather than man. So, craftspeople or craftsperson are also people who move from one place to another place for some kind of economic stability, and therefore, this type of migration will also come under economic migration. There can be more ways of dividing, I will say, migration under economy as well, but I will keep it simpler and put it as these four categories. Now let us come to the third type of migration. That what is the third type of migration which we should understand? Now this is a very important thing, and this is a very new development. Look, this political I will say migration has been taking right from the very beginning of when there were kingdoms, when the kings used to rule and they used to invade one place. So all these things used to happen, right? Refugees, the people were taken under slavery, they were made to do certain things, they were not having full rights. You might have heard this starting line of a speech: friends, Romans, and countrymen, slaves and women, right? So all these understandings will say that these are distinctions, right, of different kind of people. So not everybody was a citizen or was having all the rights, and so on. So this political migration has been taken for since the beginning of our civilizations. Now if you see economy, so Economical yeah, or economic if you see, migration is also taking place, right? Because if people find that there is one place where there are better economic opportunities, there are better they can sustain their lives better, so they will definitely like to move from one place to another place. But the third type of migration which we are planning to discuss is a little bit different, and it's quite a modern development. We call it ecological or environmental. I will use environmental or ecological. This type of migration is a new form of migration which is taking place because of the continuous activity of human beings and its way of playing with nature. We have spelled dooms for ourselves, right? We are inviting doomsday as soon as possible. We have changed the course of river. We have constructed buildings on a riverbed, on a floodplain. We are continuously deforesting, but with no understanding of afforestation. We are also doing a lot of changes to our environment. We are hurting the wildlife. We are in fact, I will not like to give the list of all these things because that can go, say, we will digress from our topic. But you know that there are a lot of environmental and ecological issues these days. Because of this, if there is a place, like there are a lot of places where industries have been set up, and because of that, the waste of industry which is put in the nearby river, pond, or any kind of water place, you cannot have drinking water over there, or the drinking water is so polluted that or the water is so polluted that it is not fit for drinking. You experience acid rains, the land is not fertile. So what people can do? People have to move from those places. There is continuous. They are staying in a very, I will say, hazardous situation. So, given that understanding, if there are environmental issues and so on, and people are moving from one place to another place because they need to save their lives and also need to check their livelihood, because that is also the most important thing for any person. So, that kind of understanding these days is considered as an environmental migration or an ecological migration. So people from one place to another place are moving precisely because the water is contaminated, the land is infertile, the air is polluted, and there is no way in which people can survive on those areas. So given this understanding, this is the third type of migration which has started coming. Now, given this understanding, uh, we need to understand that if, like, suppose if people are moving from one place to another place, say people of community A are moving from one place to another place, this was place A and this is place B, and they start staying here. So there are certain needs of them because people are culturally very close to each other, right? They belong to certain kind of ideas, they belong to certain kind of religion, they belong to certain kind of language, they like to eat certain kind of food, they like to stay in certain kind of houses, and so on. So that environment, and I'm right now not talking about the environmental disasters which we have spent for ourselves. Right now I'm talking about the environment of a place for the A people needs to be created in B place as well. So the second part of the lecture, which we will be discussing, where we will be discussing that how it is important for an architect to understand the needs of people belonging to community A from the place A, where they have transferred to a place B, uh, and you need to create the environment for them. So the idea of taking this was that there are a lot of type of migrations which are taking place, and it's not only poor people, it's rich people, it's also not only political, but it is environmental and so on. And once one kind of people are displaced from one place to another place, or they move from one place to another place, so there are certain requirements which we need to address in their new place of dwelling. And architects play a very important role, because they somehow have to recreate the environment which they were having at one place over to the new place as well. So we will discuss those things in the second part of the lecture. So thank you very much for watching.